Hello, welcome back to the other side of the cell. This is Michael Jackson coming at you again. Today we're going to talk about my opinion on the death of Robert Brooks. And for you all that are unfamiliar with that incident, Robert Brooks was an inmate up in New York State, and he evidently had a episode where he had to be restrained and handcuffed, and during that process he was taken to their medical unit, and it was about a 30-minute ordeal, and he had died as a result of the injuries, that incident. Currently it's under investigation with the state of New York and some federal agencies, it looks like. But in reviewing the footage of the incident, it is quite clear that there's a whole bunch of stuff that went wrong, and there was no leadership on the part of the people involved. First of all, I want to walk through some of the different protocols and some of the different training mechanisms that should have taken place during this that weren't. I've been doing this for I've been in corrections for many years, and there's so many things that went wrong on that day, and that could have been prevented by just one of those 6 officers stepping up and doing the right thing. So if you look at the video, they bring this individual up to their medical unit, and they're placing him on a medical table, and he's handcuffed, right? So the video, when I'm watching it, he is secured. He's secured in such a way where he is not a threat. Yes, he's resisting to some degree, but not to the degree of the force that is applied. He's a smaller man in stature. You got 6 very large correctional officers. The inmate is handcuffed. There's a couple shots of one of the correctional officers getting behind him and choking him, which is completely outside of any training that any of those officers have. The chokehold that he applied to him is not taught. And then there's several times you can see that the correctional officers are taking a fist and punching him in the throat area and in different parts, and that is considered deadly force. When an inmate is handcuffed and secured like that, deadly force, use of force continuum goes down. It doesn't go up. There's another part in there which I just watched, is where one of the officers takes his foot and he's kicking the guy in between his legs. And there's nowhere in any training manual or any academy that are going to teach you to do that. So there's several different tactics that are being used that's just straight out abuse, and it's illegal. You're violating the guy's civil rights after he is secured like that, and you're beating him. Then it goes to a different place. It doesn't really matter what type of justification they're going to try to do for these officers. They know these officers are wrong, because in any training or anytime you get in a situation like that, if somebody gets out of control, and if somebody is going to that extreme, and they're going to what we call go up the left field, somebody of those 6 just said, stop, that's enough, you step out of the room. Because I've been in situations like that before, and myself or somebody said, hey, you're too pissed off right now, leave, go. And you send them out, because you're doing 2 things when you do that. You're protecting your coworker, and you're protecting that inmate, and you're making sure nobody's going to go to jail for doing something so off the wall. And it just breaks down to being abusive. I mean, there comes a time where you got to have some human compassion when you're doing your job. Yes, a guy may piss you off, a guy may spit in your face, a guy may have done a whole bunch of things to you, but when you go to the level of where you could kill somebody, then you're going to be no good to your friends, family, or anybody. You're going to lose your job, and you're going to go to prison. And then you're going to get victimized because you're a former correctional officer in prison. And how do you think that's going to go? And you're going to end up living the next 10, 15 years in protective custody, because you're not going to live in general population. I can guarantee you that. There's good and bad in every institution, every profession. People have to understand, you can't put a blanket on anything. That's called prejudice. When you blanketly say every correctional officer is correct, every inmate's a piece of shit, and all that, that's just not true, because there's good and bad in everything. There's good inmates, there's bad inmates, there's good correctional officers, there's bad correctional officers, good staff, bad staff. It just depends on who it is. And in situations like this, you get into a mob mentality where an officer starts to beat on somebody, and it's just everybody piles on. And at some point, somebody's got to take leadership roles and take control of the situation, take control of the inmate, because when you start choking people around the neck, when you start using deadly force around the neck head area, that is to protect yourself from the threat. But once the threat goes down, you have to stop. And the level of force continuum has to go down. It doesn't go up. And in this case, it just kept going up and escalating. And nobody stepped in to do the right thing. In this profession, sometimes you might be the only person doing the right thing. And I can assure you, if it was your son or somebody you love that was taking a beating like that and nobody stepped in to do nothing about it, you would hate those people too. So you never know in life that maybe, your son or somebody in your family does something, they end up going to jail or prison or something like that. And you would hope that there's somebody professional, somebody that's professional enough, somebody that gives a shit, that will step in and say, stop, that's enough. And they control the situation, handle it in a professional manner. You got the guy secured, and you live for another day. But in this case, not only did the inmate die, a whole lot of officers are going to go to prison. It's called the ripple effect. Not only affects the inmate and his family, but it affects, 6, 7, or how many people end up getting fired and indicted for this. But there's going to be a whole lot of people that have lost their lives as they know it because of this incident. And that's just my opinion. Wrong is wrong, no matter who does it. Not to get religious or anything, but in the Bible, sin is sin, no matter who commits it. So you can't just say and blindly take up for something that's wrong, because when it's wrong, it's wrong. That's just my opinion, and I'll see you on the other side.